Hello, we're starting a new book today, and this book is called Ragweed and Poppy by Avi. Now, a little bit of background on this book. It's part of the Dimwood Forest series, and the Dimwood Forest series starts chronologically with Ragweed. That's the very first book, chronologically. Then the new book, Ragweed and Poppy, comes in as a new book two. This book was written in the summer of 2020, or was published in the summer of 2020. So this book will be read in chronological order after Ragweed, Ragweed and Poppy. And then the next book is Poppy, and then Poppy and Rye, Aerith's birthday, Poppy's return, and lastly in the series is Poppy and Aerith. But that is not the order in which they were published. The order in which they were published is different, but that's the chronological reading order. So if you want to follow the story from beginning to end and follow it as it plays out in the Dimwood Forest adventures, that would be the way to read it. So sometimes you'll see Ragweed as book number 1 and Poppy as book number 2. But remembering that, this new book, backside, here's the front side. The new book, Ragweed and Poppy, fits between Poppy and Ragweed. Comes after Ragweed and before Poppy, and it fills in the gap of what was missing from the other stories. It was also written many, many years after the original stories were written, and that's the basic background to this brand new, wonderful book I highly recommend, Ragweed and Poppy by Avi, published in the summer of 2020. Today, we're going to do Chapter 1, Ragweed Wanders and Wonders. With much rattling, banging, and squealing, the long freight train began to move. Ragweed, a golden mouse with dark orange fur, round ears, and a somewhat short tail, looked out through the open doorway of an empty boxcar. As the world whizzed by, he sighed and brushed away a few tears. One of the tears slid down a whisker and fell with a gentle plip. It had been an amazing adventure, leaving his forest home and family, mother, father, and all those younger brothers and sisters at the brook, getting to Amperville, meeting the female city mouse named Clutch, who was so different, so fascinating, the excitement of the city, learning the city's language, struggling with the terrible cats, particularly Silversides, meeting that sweet mouse Blinker, the final triumphant battle against the cats, only to learn that Blinker and Clutch were going to be together, and that he, Ragweed, was in the way, and that he needed to move on. Though he knew going away was the right thing to do, he felt sad. Fondly, Ragweed touched the earring, a small purple plastic bead on a short metal loop that dangled from his left ear. It was Clutch and Blinker who had given it to him as a going-away present. Thinking of his friends, Ragweed already missed them, even as he hoped they were happy. "I'm not," he murmured. Was the train moving too fast or not fast enough? He asked himself. Hey, he thought, I need to be alone, somewhere that'll give me peace and quiet. You're going off to like brand new adventures. But where? That brought a new thought. Am I a country mouse or a city mouse? I talk like a city mouse. I feel like a country mouse. What am I? He remembered how shortly after he left the brook, he had come to a fork in the road. There an old vole had told him that one road went east to Dimwood Forest, the other led to a city. Ragweed chose to go to the city, promising he'd go to the forest someday. Okay, he said, someday is today, forest time. He lifted his head and as loudly as he could sang his family's favorite song. A mouse will a roving go, along wooded paths and pebbled ways, to places high and places low, where birds do sing 'neath sunny rays. For the world is full of mice, oh, the world is full of mice, oh. Then Ragweed cupped his paws around his mouth and shouted, "Dimwood Forest, here I come!" Except, he told himself, he didn't know where Dimwood Forest was. Then he remembered the old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. That thought gave Ragweed some cheer, but not much. He asked himself what he had learned during the dangers he'd faced in Amperville. Okay, the best way to stay safe was to not poke his pink nose or toes into other creatures' problems. Dimwood Forest, Ragweed said the words again. Sounds like a place where I can be alone and decide what I am. Cool. A mouse has to do what a mouse has to do. As the train sped on, Ragweed worked hard to soothe his gloomy spirits by sitting near the edge of the boxcar doorway and watching the shifting scene. The human houses, cars, trees, flowers, and meadows. They all flew by like wind-blown leaves even as the train whistled along, low and long. An hour later, the train began to slow down. With much bumping, banging, and clanking, it came to a stop. Curious to learn why, Ragweed stuck his head out of the boxcar doorway. Right alongside his train lay another set of tracks. Beyond those tracks was a forest whose green and wildwood fragrance smelled delightsome. Maybe this is Dimwood Forest, Ragweed told himself. Might as well get off and find out. He edged closer to the doorway, braced his legs, and readied himself to leap from the boxcar when there was an explosive burst of air as another train roared by on parallel tracks, moving so fast it was little more than a blur. Terribly frightened, Ragweed dived deep into the boxcar, eyes squeezed shut, taking rapid, deep breaths, body trembling. He put a paw to his chest, wanting to reassure himself that his heart was still beating. It was, wildly. Dude, he managed to whisper, you just dodged being dusted. Okay, he told himself when he had calmed down. Sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something. He crept back to the open boxcar doorway, planted his feet firmly on the threshold, and peeked out. The world was still there, but he didn't even think of jumping out. Within moments, the train started up and soon regained its former speed. The whistle sounded. The things he had seen before, trees, flowers, human houses, and cars, sped by. Then once again the train halted, and Ragweed peeked out. What he saw was a cluster of houses, cars, and people, a human village. And I don't want to be around humans, he told himself. Too risky. They don't like mice. I need a place I can't be biffed. As the train resumed its rolling rumble, Ragweed realized that his recent scare had made him hungry. He lifted his nose. A scent of something good was in the air. He peered into the boxcar's depths and only then noticed, in a far, shadowy corner, was a rumpled brown paper bag that smelled of food. Scurrying over, he sniffed it. Something good. Using his front paws as well as his teeth, Ragweed made a hole. A captivating fragrance wafted out. Poking his head through the hole, Ragweed saw a piece of bread smeared with thick, nutty, brown paste. The aroma was wonderful, and there was nothing Ragweed loved more than nuts. He scooped up a gob of the paste and tasted it. Nice, he muttered. The world's best food, peanut butter. Ragweed settled down and helped himself to a good meal. After stuffing himself, he decided to leave the rest for later. No idea how far I'm going, he reminded himself, but this is the coolest way to travel. Altogether relaxed and well-fed, the steady rocking and rolling of the boxcar made him sleepy. Nap time, he thought. He shaped a hollow on the paper bag big enough for him to curl into. Once there, he snuggled down and closed his eyes. Even as he did, the train began to slow down until once more, it came to a full, shuddering halt. Deciding it didn't matter, Ragweed took a deep breath. Nuts, nobody, and being nowhere, he said. Nothing better. and drifted off into an easy sleep. Moments later, Ragweed heard an irritating, scratching noise that roused him from his snooze. Drowsy, he resisted looking. Only when the sound came again, screech, louder and much more annoying, did he partially open his eyes. At first, Ragweed could see nothing. It took the scratching sound, repeating itself a third time, for him to sit up and peer about. What is that? He wondered. It was when he turned toward the boxcar's open doorway that he saw a small gray paw with 5 long claws appear over the edge. A second paw with an equal number of claws did the same thing. A soft grunt came, and Ragweed watched, astonished, as an animal heaved itself into the boxcar. And that's the end of chapter 1.